Welcome to Beyond Ordinary, where we explore powerful strategies and life-changing insights to help entrepreneurs and ambitious individuals achieve extraordinary success. I'm Myles Youngblood, your guide to leveling up your life and business. And I had the wonderful Evan Aldo here with me today. How are you doing today, Evan?
Doing really well. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on, answer some questions. Hopefully, some of your audience will get some insight out of it. So I'm really excited.
Absolutely. We're going to talk everything cryptocurrency trading today. So let's dive right in. If someone wants to become a millionaire with crypto, how should they go about doing that?
Oh man. Well, that's the $1 million question, literally. Become a millionaire with crypto. I mean, it all, I'll be frank with you. I mean, what I would guess, I'll just kind of cut to the chase and what a lot of people know, like where can Bitcoin go within the next 12 months? Where can ETH go within the next 12 months? Where could, some of your top 10 cryptos go within the next 12 months? I think Bitcoin could go up to potentially $150,000. I don't think it'll go up to 200K, but that's kind of my top on where I think we could potentially end up. So if you're just buying Bitcoin at minimum, you'd probably need 500 grand in Bitcoin right now. Ethereum, I think could get up to, I'm looking at mid 7,000, so 7,300. So a bit over a double. So 500 grand would have a good probability, I think. If you had 500 grand in ETH, I know these are large numbers. I'll get to the other ones in a second. But if you had 500 grand in ETH, you got a good shot of doubling that. So people would argue, it depends where you live. If you're in a high taxed area, maybe you double that, you make $1 million, but then you have 750, so you only really made 250 after that. So there's tax implications to long term capital gains and all that. Depends where you live. If you're in Puerto Rico, for example, you don't have to pay any capital gains taxes as an American citizen living there. There's different things to look into, obviously. For some other altcoins like a Cardano, like your Maddox, like your AVAXs, 3 to 5x, potentially even more for some of them. Some of them, that are decent projects in the top 100, I could see a lot of them easily getting at least a 5x, 10x. Some of them probably will get 20x's within the next, year. I would say if you're going to study fundamentals a lot, I own a lot of altcoins. Some people think I'm a little crazy for having like 30 of them.
Really?
But if you
wow.
Yeah. Well, it's just diversification, because if you look back at previous cycles and post-halving years like 2017, 2021, really you would have made the most money if you just had a diversified portfolio. Like obviously last cycle, if you had all your money in something like Cardano, you would have done pretty well. Let's say you bought it at 30 cents. I forget where it went up to. What was it, $3 or something? You would have made it
330, something like that.
Yeah. But let's say you had 90% Cardano and 10% Doge. You would have gotten a much more than that kind of area. Or if you had, diversification, around in some new cryptos, generally the new ones in each cycle, not all of them, a lot of them will go to zero. A lot of them will do nothing in the next 12 months, but that diversification I think that's the most important part. I think, the diversification, I think the biggest like mainstream person that really talked about that kind of venture capitalism approach was Peter Lynch, who basically said, you're going to buy essentially 5 or 10 stocks. Let's say you buy 5. 3 of them will go to zero. You lose all your money. 1 of them will do nothing. And then 1 of them will go up 100x. So, when you factor all that in, you'd probably get a 30 or 40x, maybe, or even at least a 10 or 20x. And then if we look at more degeneracy of crypto, probably a 30x or something. So that's the big point here. So, to answer kind of that question, how to become a millionaire, if you wanted a 20x, and let's say you put 50 grand in a lot of different things, a lot of diversification, there's a decent shot you could get a 5 to 10x. I don't know about a 20x, maybe there'd be more risk. I would say for really, a little bit can go a long way, obviously, but somebody who's trying to make, good gains in the next 12 months, like, I don't know if you only have 5 or 10 grand, if it's really, this is going to break some people's hearts. I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if it's really worth it to put that into crypto at the moment. Maybe just be something safe with Bitcoin and try to work hard to save up, that 50 or 100 grand, until that happens, and then try to use that, because typically, 50 to 100 grand is enough to start a business. That's enough to invest something significant.
Absolutely.
That's enough money where, especially if you earned it on your own and you were able to save that up over a 6 to 12 month period, hopefully, if it's okay, if it takes longer, that's all right too. But, you'd probably be smart enough to not just put all that into, that crazy meme coin or some nonsense and gamble all away. You'd probably have a more diversified portfolio, and you'd probably have a good shot of hopefully becoming. I mean, you're probably not going to. Let's be real. You're probably not going to become a millionaire within the next 12 months unless you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in crypto right now. Most likely, I could be wrong. I'm very glad if you're able to. Look, I'm wrong. You were right. I'm dumb. Whatever. But okay, most people won't, sadly. But
Yeah.
if you got hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably a millionaire. But on the bright side, if you only have a little bit of money right now, within the next 4 years, if you really study, if you really put the work in, I think it's absolutely obtainable to become a millionaire with Bitcoin, Ethereum, with some of the top cryptos. So yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that in terms of like where we are in the cycle with us being close to 100,000, it's kind of risky to just jump in, especially if you don't know what you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
But you did mention that you have 30 alts in your portfolio, and that's a lot. And I get it,
Mhm.
diversification. A lot of coins probably might not do anything, or some of the legacy coins might not go up as much as you would hope. But I just want to ask you, of all those altcoins, what's your number one highest conviction altcoin for this cycle?
For this cycle, I mean, I would probably say, I mean, there's a few that are kind of even, like honorable mentions. I would say AVAX has got a good shot. I mean, off the top of my head, I think that's got a good shot. I'd have to look at the chart at the moment. I've just like blanked out on what the exact price is at the exact second. But, I think there's a good shot of doing like better than a 3X, maybe even a 5X, maybe even an 8X for AVAX. I think that's got a lot of potential. Some other honorable mentions. I mean, there's certain ones people make fun of me for it. Crypto.com, I think, has something brewing there. Crow. But
Mm,
look, I mean, it could do nothing. It could even go down in the next 12 months. I'm diversified. So I have a lot of conviction. AVAX has a lot of good fundamentals behind it. There's a lot of new people, in terms of a newer coin that a lot of people like, that I do see why they like, and I think there's good reason. Sui, I think I'm pronouncing it
yeah,
SUI. You
yeah.
probably heard, yeah, you've heard of it, obviously. I think there's some, decent conviction there. As other new ones, IMX, I think there's some decent stuff, happening there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not the most person. Like people ask me, which altcoin is the most fundamentals? Like I can't really answer that question, but I could tell you, based on the first cycle, based on technical analysis, based on my studies, what diversified portfolios will probably do well. And the other thing, I don't know if I'm sure you'll probably ask it, but the time, most likely the time to sell will be between October of December of this year if the 4-year cycle kind of stays intact. So I mean, you probably don't want to run through it round trip, although that's not the worst idea. I mean, to kind of cut to the chase for what people want to hear, I mean, I think Bitcoin will probably kind of go down to like that 50, back to that 50K inception of the ETF market at some point. Like I think you'll see another 50% correction at least in the next, bear market. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think that'll probably happen. And ETH, I think will probably end up somewhere in the 3Ks, again, maybe low 3Ks, high 2Ks at some point in 2026. So in the grand scheme of things, like, at this point, like I think it's still a good time to get into crypto, but running it round trip, I mean, you're going to be waiting a while, I think. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
definitely gonna be
Yeah.
waiting a while. But yeah, definitely beat me to the chase on when you think the top of the market's gonna be. So
Yeah.
that's based upon like the 4-year cycle. For those of you people that may not may not be new, or may be new, who don't know about the 4-year cycle, can you kind of go into that a little more as to why you think that we're gonna top out in October/December?
So it's basically so 4-year cycle is essentially for every 4 years you have the Bitcoin halving, which was last year. It was in 2024, and the year before, the time before that it was in 2020, and the time before that it was in 2016. And generally those years are very good years for Bitcoin. And generally the post halving year, that the year after that, which was 2017, 2021, and this year 2025, will be even better returns, especially for altcoins. That's generally when altcoins go crazy. And this is usually like around January in that 4-year cycle, 2021, 2017, and hopefully the same will happen this year, is kind of the last chance to theoretically get into altcoins. So if we do follow that 4-year cycle, and then the top is in quarter 4 of the post halving year, which for example was, I mean, I guess it was very early January of 2018 for some of the altcoins, but I kind of consider it to be late 2017 for that cycle. And then the one after was November November of 21. And then this cycle, I would guess, my guess is December, or maybe very early January of 2026, similar to how it was in 2017 into 2018. But that's kind of just bro science, guesswork, just like
Hmm.
maybe it'll skip a generation. Last time it topped in November, maybe it'll be a little bit longer this time. I mean, I think, but the thing with the 4-year cycle, DCing out, slowly, gradually getting out of these markets made the most sense between October to December of 2017, October to December of 2021. And if history repeats itself, which I think it will, I could be wrong, but I think it will, it would be October to December of 2025. And I think that, ultimately, let's say you're a person who's maybe got some altcoins, you got some Bitcoin, you got a diversified portfolio, you're up a little bit, but you're not too impressed with what you have. I think the thing that would make the most sense is try to bear it out, wait until October, then start to DC out slowly until the end of the year. I think that's your best bet right now, I would think.
Like, glad you gave some actionable steps for the people that out there might not have started their DCA. I definitely messed around and lost a lot of money in 2020
Mhm.
and 2021 trying to just do stupid stuff. And then I was like, you know what, let me finally do it right. And so all of 2022 and all of 2023 is when I started my DCA, when everything was low. Cause I was like, all right, like I know for a fact, like everybody
Mhm.
ran away. If I start my DCA now during the bear market, like I'll be up. And now it's really just time to just wait and offload those bags, like you said, towards the end of the year. So that's the way to do it, people. DCA. Don't try and get on leverage and all
DCA
that
out
other
too.
stuff.
Yeah, theoretically get out too. Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's good. I commend you. A lot of people, even probably a lot of influencers, whether they admit it or not, they probably didn't have the courage to buy at those lows in, 2022, 2023. That's kind of when the fear is. And sadly at
Absolutely.
those areas, a lot of people, I hate to say it, but a lot of people they sell at those areas because they have to sell, not necessarily because they
Yeah.
want to sell, because the economy's not doing as well. Other issues happen. So interest
Yeah,
rates
that's
rise,
facts.
yeah, so that's the thing for people watching, be careful,
Mm,
be careful with that.
definitely. Man, I remember too when I was buying it, it was probably like Bitcoin was like around 18 to like 15K. And
Mhm.
it was scary because I got it in my YouTube sub box and everybody and their mama was talking about we're going sub 10K. Oh my gosh, da da da. So it's like, damn, am I really gonna buy it? Like I know 15 is a good price, but like it could go to 10. And then in it was a lot of FUD. It was crazy. But I was like, you know what, just buy every single week, regardless of the price. If it goes down to, 10K or 9K or whatever everybody's calling for, buy some more. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did, and it seemed I think 15K or 14K was the bottom. So
15.5, I think I could be wrong, but
yeah,
15.5 is my guess.
something like
I
that.
remember, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's crazy to think. We're up so much from. Obviously, even if you just
absolutely.
invested like 10 grand at 15K, you're up a lot. You're up a
Mhm.
lot. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But one thing on the show, Evan, I like to do is I like to highlight people's journey, right? So you're a successful YouTuber, a successful trader, right? And there's some people that probably come to your channel, see that you have it all figured out, but it wasn't always like that. So I want to ask you, what was your journey before trading, and also how did you get into it?
Okay, so I would say like I was always kind of into crypto a little bit, like when I was in college, like those years 18, 19, 20 years old. I didn't have, and that was kind of for you guys a reference, that was around 2015, that kind of bear market before it went crazy in 2017. I was into it. I never had much cash to really deploy into it at that time. So I made some money, in that bull market, but it was kind of in hindsight, it really wasn't that much. Most people back then, like, if you think people are negative about crypto now, you should have looked at what people were saying back then. Everybody was thinking you were doing illegal stuff. Everyone thinking you were doing, I don't want to like say words, you get you demonetized or whatever, but you guys know
Yeah.
about like Ross Ulbricht and all that. Like they were, thinking you were doing stuff like that. So it was a very, very negative atmosphere, and it kind of scared me away from it a little bit. So I kind of just went more down a normal path. Like I was after college, I was a paralegal in LA for a
Okay.
year, and that was during COVID, so 2020. So I didn't have too much to do other than like work. And that was like when I would spend a lot of time, watching YouTube videos, reading about crypto and all these type of things. And I kind of saw, about Michael Saylor. I saw all these type of things. So I went really heavy into it kind of in middle to late 2020, which was kind of the perfect time in hindsight, especially for some really good altcoins. And I made the most money off of Cardano, Matic, and Ethereum were like big, big wins for me. So that was
Mhm.
like, I think you'll still have opportunities to make some of these gains in the next 12 months, but like it depends how we think about diminished returns, but like some of those gains, like it was insane. Like you could have, you started with 10 or 20 grand, 30 grand, you could have turned that into a lot back then. So I
Yeah.
rode that up a lot. And then with a lot of those gains that I made. And during that time, I was studying technical analysis like crazy too, studying a lot of technical analysis, a lot of trial and error kind of with trading. And I think
Mhm.
the big secret I'll give, kind of not really secret, but I'll give it right here, is like a really good trader, a profitable trader, like they're working a lot to make 10 to 30% a month. Like it's not, and it's
Really?
like a full-time job almost, like to make that. Like, and that's pretty damn good. Like 10% a month compounded, like you can't get that anywhere. That's insane. Like that's very, very good. But people
Mhm.
going into it trying to make, doubling in their account in a month, making those degenerate stuff. I'm like, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's very hard. There's a risk management component
Mhm.
of it. There's obviously, what we talk about, just buying on spot and following the 4-year cycle, like that's a very easy strategy to do compared to somebody day trading, leverage trading, and in those type of things, which are much more complicated and take a lot longer to learn. I'm not saying you can't do them. They're not that like challenging, like compared to like, I
Mhm.
would compare it to, high school level, like pre-calculus or high school level chemistry class. Like if you can do that, what I mean, you're probably going to be, you probably can learn technical analysis. It's not like that complicated. It's just a lot of mental stuff, a lot of risk management. I think the most important thing that we all struggle with in all aspects of investing, in all aspects of life, really, getting too
Mhm.
nervous, get overthinking things, not following the strategy, not doing what we're supposed to do. A lot of it's subconscious too. A lot of people talk about like, Eastern philosophies and how that, influences like trading and all that. And I think, if you've told me this like 5 years ago, I would have told you were, full of crap. But now I kind of
Mhm.
see about the calmness about that. And I mean, all that type of thing. I would say, a lot of people try to get into trading, gambling, all these type of things because, they want to make money, but you have to definitely be passionate about these things. You have to be passionate about learning charts, passionate about learning risk management, all these type of things. And, I mean, for many, they could be pretty boring. So that's the kind of the warning that I'll give there. But like anything else, if you put in the work, you can do well. You definitely can do well. For the
Mhm.
average person, would I recommend, leverage trading or day trading? I would say you got to be really passionate about it. There's prop trading accounts you could do where if you could pass like a test, get a certain gain before you lose a certain amount, they give you like up to 100 grand to trade with. You could keep, 90% of those gains. Be careful, look at make sure it's a reputable prop trading firm. There's things you can look into without risking too much money because a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're going to lose every penny you put into that leverage trading account. Well, if you're doing prop trading, you're only going to lose the money you spent to like get that evaluation. So it could be less. So there's ways to do it. There's
Mhm.
ways to do it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So something that you said that was very interesting is you said some of the best only get about 10 to 30% month over month. But like whenever I on YouTube, I'll see like either you or Andy from Bitcoin Census, Jason, and y'all counts be just exploding. Like I see triple digits, four digits. It's crazy. So why does even some of the best only get about like 10 to 30%? Like why is it so hard to like I guess double your account every single month?
Well, these people, like a lot of times, I mean, they have usually hundreds of thousands of dollars in their accounts. So if you're up like 5 grand to 10 grand, like that could be 10% on that particular trade, and then you have losses and other things too. Generally, if you're risking that, that 1% per trade, 1, 2, 3% per trade that I typically do, if you have $100,000 account, it's a few $1,000s each place. I wouldn't say, I mean, I've had some good trades over the years, but I'm typically not in 5-digit gains all the time. Typically, it's a few thousand that I'm ahead, trading with like a few different accounts as a total like 50K that I have in them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm not somebody I'm trying to think like I've done maybe $1 million trade that I've live traded, but that was more of a degenerate thing too. But so
Mhm.
yeah, I'm definitely not like every day up 10 grand. I mean, most of the trades you guys see me, it's up a few thousand. I'm risking $1,000 to $3,000 to hopefully make a few thousand in that trade.
Makes
And then
sense.
hopefully at the end of the month, getting over that 10%, 20%,
Mhm.
30%. I mean, I've had months where I've gotten 50%. I think I've had months where I've gotten 100K. Obviously, if you do a trade and ride it up a long time, you can make, big amounts. You could double your account. That's generally when the market is moving parabolically, or if you're
Yeah.
really good at shorting, market's dumping, But generally, when the market's just moving up like crazy, up and to the right, that's generally the easiest time, in my opinion. And that's when you see people making insane money. But the problem with that is generally most of the time they do end up losing it when the market conditions change and it gets choppy and it goes down and goes in all different ways rather than up and to the right, unfortunately.
Of course. So, Evan, you could have traded any asset, right? You could have traded stocks, forex, crypto. What made you want to trade crypto specifically?
It's the most interesting, I would say. It's the most fun. It's the most interesting. It's the least regulated. You can trade it 24/7, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. If you know what you're doing with it, there's more opportunity there. The volatility is obviously very fun. If you're trading Forex, I mean, that's boring as hell. There's not too much volatility. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you can't do very well with Forex. I know people have. Like, there's a guy in my Discord that's been posting a lot of really, really good Forex trade setups for years. It's just kind of boring to me. Maybe I'm missing out on it. Stocks, I would say, is like the second most fun to trade, especially like some of the stocks, especially like, I mean, it sounds so basic, but like some of those tech stocks that just, go up and to the right, those are pretty fun
Hmm.
to trade generally, especially with low leverage. And yeah, crypto is a fun thing to trade, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum. You could do high leverage. There's a lot of things you can do that you can't do, with the regulation of the stock market, which a lot of libertarian, crypto people tend to like. Again, it can be riskier, it can be riskier in some ways. But then again, with the stock market, it's kind of an illusion because you can do all this weird stuff with options, which is like just as risky in my opinion. That's like going 100x leverage with some of those options. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like you pick your poison, or the sports betting now that people can do. Like you could lose money in any way possible. You know what I mean? Like but yeah, I would say lack of regulation is a big point, and just the way Bitcoin moves is always fun. So yeah.
And then in terms of the indicator that you use, I know you like to use Market Cipher B. I actually use
Mhm.
Market Cipher B as well. I
Yeah.
decided I was just gonna stick to something. I seen you use it, Jason use it. Let me
Mhm.
start to actually learn how to use it. So I want to ask you, what made you choose that indicator to be the one to carry your career?
So I think that the big thing that has that generally a lot of others don't. I think the trigger waves are a big thing. Momentum, the way the momentum goes is a big thing. Combining that with VWAP and RSIs, which are generally the pretty much everything that's on, Market Cipher B. So I think it shows a good direction. Now,
Hmm.
can you use that by itself? I mean, sometimes just using that by itself sometimes can be good if you're patient and wait for the right setups. I think you definitely want to use that combined with support and resistance. We use these trend lines called spiral lines that are very good to use as well. I
Hmm.
look at volume profiles for support and resistance, as well, combined with a bit of traditional TA, because I mean, I don't think you necessarily 100% need an indicator to be a profitable trader, but I
Really?
like
Why
it
is that?
for. Why is that? Well,
Mhm.
what is an indicator? Well, for those who don't know, essentially an indicator follows price. You're following what's happening, essentially following price. So if you're looking at price itself, theoretically, you could decipher a lot that indicators look at. I mean, there's a lot of people that just trade with based on traditional TA, support and resistance and those type of things. And there's a lot of strategies that you can use with just that. So I'm not saying if you're not using an indicator, I'm not saying you're automatically going to be unprofitable, automatically going to lose money and all those type of things. I like the indicator more for confluence because there's things down Market Cipher
Mhm.
B that shows me from the price that I can't see, just as my own eyes just looking at candlesticks. I mean, you could even argue candlesticks itself is an indicator. You know what I mean? You could argue just support and resistance is an indicator. You could argue Heiken actually candles is an indicator. You know what I mean? You could argue Fibonacci as well. I mean, that's an
Mhm.
indicator. So it's just all different indicators, kind of put together for confluence. One of the big things a lot of rookies make is just looking at too much stuff and getting into analysis paralysis. Like, okay, we're looking at,
Yeah.
moon cycle here, Jupiter over here, Venus, combined with all that type of stuff. I'm mildly making fun of those people, but there is actually some confluence of moon cycles, believe it or not. So it's
Oh, that's
kind
crazy.
of wild. What's that?
I said, "Wow, that's crazy."
You've never heard that?
I've never heard that. The cycles of the moon as people use that as an indicator?
I don't know anybody who like uses that solely and actually makes money doing that, but if you do look at the charts, generally a new moon indicates some bearish things to come. Generally, a full moon does indicate money coming into the market. Do not ask me why. It's just a lot of time. I would say probably 60 to 70%. Like, but that doesn't mean like that's the thing too. Like you can't just go long every full moon and expect to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it gets stopped out. There's like it may jump up within a few days. Sometimes it'll jump up a day before. Like it's around that time you may get a jump. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like where people sometimes if people are really indecisive, they'll like look at a full moon and be like, oh, I'll take this long setup that I like because of that. Or if they look at a new moon, oh, I'll take this short setup rather than the long setup I like. You know what I mean? Something like that,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you should. You probably shouldn't do that, honestly. But it's interesting to look at these things, especially like I think if you're this interested in it, that you're like interested in hearing about this, interested in looking about at these things, you got a good shot of being, having what it takes to potentially become a profitable trader. That's what I will say.
Hmm. And then what is one quality that all successful traders have?
What's one quality? I would say the number one, I don't know if this was a quality. One thing that comes to mind though is they assess the risk before they enter a trade. So they know how much they're
Mm,
going to lose and they're comfortable losing that if they do lose the trade. I don't know if that would be a quality, but I think that's a very important thing. In terms of an actual quality someone might have, I would think being very stoic, not letting your emotions get the best of you. And I think that's something we all struggle with no matter how good you are. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think obvious qualities like anything else, being disciplined, being humbled, having common sense, controlling your emotions, those type of things, I mean, I don't think you could expect to win at everything in life if you're just not even focused on it. So I think focus is a important thing too. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that risk management's huge, is a big one. Anytime somebody asks me about like crypto or how much they should put in, the very first thing I always tell them is like, yeah, only put in how much you expect to lose. Cause like going into it trying to make money, like, oh, if I put in X amount, I can make X
mhm,
amount. It's like, no, like put in how much you're willing to lose because, and you do that because when the downturn comes, like Evan was saying,
mhm,
you are able to regulate your emotions and not get too emotional because you're not putting the money that you were supposed to put on your rent in this trade. So that's definitely a big one. And then you said like regulating your emotions has also been pretty big, and that's something that I've been trying to really gear myself up for for this next article because I've been accumulating for a very long time in 2022, right? And I'm trying to master my emotions both ways. So
mhm,
not get you too euphoric and be like, okay, like I did the hard part. I bought for all these years. Now it's time to sell. Don't be an idiot and then and be jumping up and down and hold the bag. And then all of a sudden, like I fucked off all my profits from that
mhm.
I could accumulated over the past 2-3 years. You know what I mean? So I would say regulating your emotions goes both ways.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then, so you have a YouTube channel, man. Like, let's walk me through, like, you've been trading, making money. What made you want to take that step and get on YouTube?
Uh, that's a good question, actually. Sometimes it does get a little bit like, why don't I just do this on my own? Why am I sharing this? Why am I giving away my secrets to everyone? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it's kind of a fun thing. I mean, generally, when you're just, trying to trade, or if you have a lot of money already you made and you're kind of more comfortable, I think there's a lot that pushes you to try to help others and, try to help others in the best way you can to, try to connect with other people, try to educate other people, try to teach people the things that you learned. A lot of times the videos I make, certain times they're things that I'm trying to learn. They're things that I'm trying to teach myself. Sometimes people say, I think Airbnb was started with these guys that couldn't afford to pay their rent, so they basically would rent, kind of sublease an apartment or
Yeah.
a house temporarily. So they kind of started that concept. So they became billionaires, kind of solving their own problems. So I think a lot of it could be that you kind of have to be passionate, the thing you're passionate about, make videos about it. And I think it's altruistic. And I think, the more you kind of give, the more you kind of get back in a lot of ways. I always enjoyed YouTube. I always enjoyed communications. I always enjoyed things of that nature. So, I made a lot of money in 2021, with crypto. So, I made a lot of money in 2021. I retired from or quit my job and I wanted something else to kind of do. And I figured try to educate people on the things that I learned. And then it didn't take very long to gain a pretty good following. So I mean, I do it pretty nonchalantly. I'm not like somebody who's, cares that much about how many views I get or how many subscribers I have. I'm kind of just doing it to help people out. I'm just kind of trying to live life and do it the best I can. So yeah.
Hmm. And then what has been the hardest part about being a YouTuber? I know you said like you kind of do it nonchalantly, but is there anything that's difficult about having a channel and upkeeping that?
I think there's some issues with staying consistent, sometimes following a particular schedule. Sometimes, not everybody's ever going to be completely happy with, the content you choose to work on, the videos you choose to work on. Somebody may like this type of trading. Somebody may like this other type of thing. Somebody
Mm,
may like you to go live at this time. Somebody may like you to go live at another time. There's a lot of different things, and sometimes sometimes you have anxiety about like, oh, I want to, make videos about this different topic right now, but maybe I'm too afraid. Some people may not like that. There's different paths you can go on. I think sometimes, just like in trading, we get stuck with analysis paralysis at certain times. Sometimes I think there could be a greed aspect. I think a lot of people with YouTube, they're trying to do it to maybe get famous. You want to, get all this notoriety, and then, oh, I'm not big enough compared to other people. Compared, oh, this guy has so much more followers than me. He's so much more well known. I'm only out here. So I think there's aspects like that. But I think no matter what you do in life, I think you're going to probably feel that way at some point. So yeah, I can't complain too much. It's generally what I like to do.
mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then I see that you have like a vlogging series, but you don't do the vlogging as much. How come you kind of slowed down on those?
Yeah, I still have done it. I think I did. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I definitely need to do one of those. Sometimes, to be honest, it's just sometimes I just don't really have any ideas, that I want to
Yeah.
really necessarily vlog about, or sometimes I'll record something and it'll be really unorganized, and I just don't think the content is good enough. Maybe I'm being too harsh on myself, but yes, it's a combination between not having good ideas for it and just not think it's good enough content. But I definitely want to do more of that. Sometimes you think the things you're talking about may not be as relatable. Sometimes, things of that nature. Sometimes there's doubt with that, or maybe even just a lack of interest in that sometimes. But no, that definitely. I'm glad you asked me that. I definitely want to do more of that. Definitely.
Yeah, coming up with ideas is a big one. I thought about like doing different solo episodes and stuff like that. Part of the reason why I'm able to stay consistent with the podcast is because
Mhm.
I just come up with the questions to ask people. It doesn't take me all that long to do. Just come up with a topic, title, all that stuff, and then you guys just take it away. However, like if I had to do a solo podcast where I had to sit down and I had to think of a topic and then I'd have to script it out and record. Oh nah, like nah, I feel you on that one. Trying to come up with something, especially something that people would want to actually listen to and watch. So I feel
Yeah.
you on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm. And then before we close out, man, like what is one thing you want people to take away from this episode?
Oh man, for those, maybe I'm wrong about it, but for those who don't know too much about the Fourier cycle, if history repeats, it's a good thing to know a lot about. I think it's a good thing to really know a lot about, especially getting out kind of, at the right times. I could be wrong again, but I think it's a good, like that for anyone like just getting into crypto, like that's the most important thing I would look at right now. Try to understand what that is, because a lot of people like, I'm sure I think you mentioned you first got into crypto, what was it, 2020, 21?
Yeah,
Did you
2020.
know about the Fourier cycle back then when you had a, no, I don't think you
No.
knew. Yeah.
I was
That's
just
a
I
good
was just
point.
gam yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gambling, bro. I was
Yeah.
just saw everybody making money and just buying Bitcoin. It exploded. I didn't know what I was doing. So that's why I took the time to like learn the indicators, 4-year
Yeah.
cycles, stuff like that. The halving, yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So that's one takeaway. Another takeaway, I think that the risk management part, is very important. I think that's especially for somebody leverage trading or doing day trading or more short term things. That's the most important thing. Ultimately, right there. In terms of kind of just life advice in general, stick to things you're passionate about. That's the most cliche thing anyone could say, but it is true, at least to a certain extent. It's hard enough to stick with things that you're actually passionate about, and you could still fail at things you're not even passionate about. You're just trying to do it to impress your friends, impress your family, or whatever. So,
Yep.
kind of go down your own path. When I was in, I wish, I got, I'm doing very well now. I can't complain, but I wish I was more into crypto back in 2015, 2016, when everybody was so, compared to, like I mentioned, like compared to how it is now compared to back then, I'm like night and day. Everybody hated crypto back then. They thought you were just doing illegal crap back then, which I guess a lot of people were back then, sadly, but I
Right.
wish I did more research to it. And the thing too is like try to really research something before you have an opinion on it, because I've heard so many
Mm.
opinions from people who they don't really know anything about the subject matter. Like it's kind of the ego kind of gets at them. Sadly, I'm sure we're all guilty of this, myself too. But that's another thing too. Really understand, what you're buying, what you're investing in, or at least understand a strategy that you're following. Even if you don't understand like what the hell crypto you're buying, like what the hell this does, at least have a strategy for like when you're going to try to exit out or how you're going to try to do that. So, yeah, I think that's all I got in terms of that.
Hey, that was perfect. I have a strategy for when to exit, and we can definitely close on that. Well, Evan, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast, dropping the wisdom, all that good stuff. It's a great time to bring people on that know things about crypto and trading and things like that. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I just want to ask you one last thing. Where can the people find you at?
Okay, so the main thing, youtube.com/Evan Aldo, which is my name, the YouTube channel. Twitter is at Real Evan Aldo, or X, now they say it nowadays. And then Instagram at Evan.Aldo. Those are the three main ones I use. Check me out there. Watch some of I do more pre-recorded videos now. So check it out. A lot of really good TA. Hope you guys learned something. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna put all that in the show notes. Hope you guys learned something, make you some money this cycle. Till next time, peace.